Kelly, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you, Martin?
Very well, very well. Great to have you. Look, for the benefit of the audience, it would be really nice if you could just start by just introducing yourself, a little bit of background on you and what your current role is.
Yeah, sure. So Kelly O'Connor, I am a sales leader in the velocity segment here at Stripe, based in our Chicago office. I've been with Stripe for a little over 3 years now in the payment space, and I've been in Chicago for 10 years.
What a journey you must have been, right? Already, I mean, it's a super fast growing company. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the fast growing changes over the course of the last few years. So one of the things that we're talking about with a lot of these different interviews about business case season is Q4, right? And I'd love for you to just explain from your experience in sales, what does Q4 mean to you?
Yeah, so I would say, like, as both an account executive and as a sales leader, for me, Q4 is all about ruthless prioritization. Always in my career from managers and have continued this, I look at Q4 as it actually ends November 15th. If you are fighting for deals anytime really post Thanksgiving, it's going to be a tough battle. And I've seen many deals that I thought were sure things slip into the new year once that holidays come about. So it's really about, closing time and being really smart about where you're spending your time.
I love the concept of ruthless prioritization. What does that mean in practice? Like what kind of checklist do you have for that?
Yeah, I think, it's thinking about understanding the needs of the users you're selling to, as well as what you need and what your company needs. And so, really assessing what are the deals that are likely to close? What do you need to close in order to hit your numbers as an AE? But also, like, where do you or where are you able to kind of push your users? And so, oftentimes in Q4, we see like, hey, we've got some budgets to spend before end of year. And so how do you prioritize those accounts versus ones who are maybe, a little bit less kind of down to the wire on that?
And you've lived it both as a sales rep, but also as a team manager. So I'm sure you've learned. I'd love to hear from you how you've learned how to forecast accurately, and then also as a team leader, how to manage your sales reps and understanding how do you prioritize ruthlessly on that part?
Yeah. I think it's all about really direct and transparent communication with your users and really building out mutual action plans to get them to that finish line and gut checking that every call that you have with them and understanding from them what needs to happen in order to get this deal done. Where do deals slow down? Is it with legal? Is it with pricing approvals? And I think, like, by really constantly checking in on dates with them, having a timeline and getting their buy-in on that timeline, and then understanding, okay, what else do you need to see? Those are going to be things that really help you understand if this deal is worth spinning your wheels on or not. And I think, by putting together really succinct proposals, business cases, and those timelines, you're able to start to vet that out really quickly.
And time is definitely not on your side in Q4.
Mhm.
And we've seen, even myself as a buyer of different services, we know that as a buyer, you can probably push the discount as you get edge closer to that December 31st date. How do you manage that and obviously avoid as much as possible going down the discount route?
I think Q4, what's kind of fun about Q4 is, you have a really good view not only of what your customers' priorities were for that year, but they also now know what their priorities are for next year. They've started that planning. And so understanding, how much is a discount going to move the needle for them on those priorities, whether they're this year's or next year's. And then I think for you as the rep, you have to really understand, is this a win for today? Giving that discount a win for today, but also tomorrow? Or is it just a win that is for today? And I think what we really try to coach our reps on is only doing those discounts when that is a win for both today and tomorrow. And so thinking about if giving that discount is going to help them get this deal signed sooner, get past some legal hurdles, and ultimately, kind of start using the product faster, that feels like a worthy use of a discount. If it's just to get a deal done and they're still not going to go live on the product for 3 months, that's maybe one of those deals that you say, like, let's revisiting it in Q1.
I love that because that also alleviates the pressure on you and the rep to because nobody what's worse than no deal is a bad deal, right? So
Yeah.
ultimately you don't want to push towards that bad deal. And so how much, in my previous previous lives in sales, there was always that balance between hitting your numbers in Q4 and using some pull forward from Q1 to kind of
Mhm.
make up for what may
Mhm.
be missing, but equally that can sacrifice what Q1 looks like. How do you balance that off as well?
Yeah, I think again, it kind of goes back to thinking beyond the signature and like what is best for the customer at the end of the day. If they don't sign in Q4, how does that impact their project? We sell primarily usage based products, and so we need our customers to start actually using our services in order for us to get paid, for them to actually see the value in what they bought. And so, with that, I think oftentimes we see slowness with the holidays and even January feeling really slow. And so, if the Q4 close means that they're going to be able to start actioning that implementation plan faster in Q1 and ultimately get live faster, that's where it's better for you and for the customer to get that signature in Q4. But I think again, if their timelines are kind of up in the air, if they're later, that's one that you're gonna, like, let slip to Q1 and maybe, like, get more margin on that deal at the end of the day.
Yeah, makes sense. I like the prudence behind it. But like in reality terms, what's the craziest thing that you've done to hit your Q4 numbers?
Yes. It's always kind of a crazy time. I think the latest I've ever had a deal signed was on December 30th. And the company I was at, we were closed that week, so technically no one was working. So I had to very, very kindly ask for some legal help for a final review and signature, and was able to make it happen. But never want to have to call your general counsel on December 30th and say, "Hey, just one more red line here."
And do you see a lot of that rush from your team? So do you sense that your team are under a lot of pressure? And do you try to, because I'm sure a lot of the pressure on the sales reps isn't just, of course, it's not just hitting your numbers. It's your comp, your bonus. Maybe it's a difference between President's Club or not. How do you manage the psychology behind Q4 to make sure that your team are as have as solid as a foundation as possible?
I think it goes back to, again, thinking of the quarter as ending on November 15th. And if you operate that way and you get your customers to operate that way, hopefully December, you are not in that crunch time. Obviously, that's like easier said than done and best case scenario. But I think we talk a lot about, where we see the ebbs and flows in the business. And while we're not a seasonal business, you have to recognize that the way that people live can be. And ultimately, we're selling to people. And so they take holidays in the summer. So it's a little bit quieter in August. They take time off with family. And so really going back to that, like direct conversation with customers of what do you have on your plate and how do we get this done, and make, things happen before end of quarter. Or if not, let's push it. And so that reps have a really good understanding of where they stand and they're not agonizing over a deal that's not going to happen that quarter anyway.
Now, I presume you sell to a lot of retail companies, so Q4 must be a pretty busy period for them anyway, right? Because
Mhm,
this to decide and move forward on what's likely a change on their part
mhm.
to introduce Stripe. I'm just assuming, right? But it may very
Yep.
well be that they're just too busy with the holiday season. They'd, actually that cyclical nature may be slightly different for that segment.
Yes, I think we see too a lot of kind of developer work being paused. They don't want to touch any
Right.
code or anything in the holidays, not worth the risk. And so that's something too that we have to be really cognizant of. Of if you're going to make something happen for Q4, really that work needs to be done. Even earlier in Q3, because it's not just the holidays and other priorities shifting, but they're going to go into a code freeze.
And more on the rep side, so obviously we know quite a few of the team, and you guys hire exceptionally well and very talented people. But even within that, what separates the reps who absolutely crush Q4 from those who don't? Is there a maybe not necessarily a playbook, but specific characteristics that you see that of those reps that year on year just crush it?
I think the reps who crush it are really great at forecasting their own business. So they are in the numbers, they know how they're tracking. You could ask them at any moment where they're at in their numbers, what deals are in their pipeline, what they need to do, and they run their business. They run their territory like it's their own business. And so being really
Mm.
organized with that and having a really strong pulse on the timelines of your customers, but even more so like on your own numbers and what you need, it allows them to prioritize their time more strategically of like, hey, maybe this smaller deal actually is going to, be the kind of final piece that I need in order to really crush it. But I think, again, it kind of goes back to that ruthless prioritization. And so in order to do that well, you need to really understand your numbers.
And I presume that if you peel like one step back, that's more about how good they are at continuously qualifying the deal,
Mhm.
or getting that information from their prospect, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really fascinating. So we all know that, of course, there is no Q5, right?
Mhm.
And so that pressure is absolutely on. On average, how much do you see reps will after November 15th really try to push those deals versus push them into Q1? And what kind
Yeah,
of
I think it's kind of case by case. I think, it's one going to depend where they're at on their numbers. I think it's also understanding like what's going to work for the user. And so I think like we do see, maybe there are things that we can kind of push and get their legal team to kind of be a little bit more lenient on at the end of the year and have that discretionary spend. We can certainly use those terms to our advantage as well and be strategic there. But I think it's kind of finding that balance and of meeting the customer's needs, meeting your numbers, but also recognizing that things do just tend to slow down in December.
oh, super helpful. Kelly, thank you so much for a really great interview.
Yeah,
I think
thank
this is
you.
really helpful for our users.
Awesome. Thanks, Martin.
Thanks.